Do I start from the beginning of the book or?
Sure, that'll be best.
So, the white settlers moved into their land, and then so Chief Joseph is trying to keep everyone under control and saying, we don't need to fight. We can listen to their words. There shall be no violence. And Sound of Running Feet and some other people in the tribe are fighting against Chief Joseph's words and want to fight for their land and get it back. And right now, Sound of Running Feet was going to get married to Swan Necklace, but Swan Necklace's dad, Two Moons, said after the battle you can get married. So she's helping Swan Necklace fight. Swan Necklace and some other people killed 2 white soldiers, and Chief Joseph got mad. And now they're on their way to Lapwai.
Okay. Does anybody want to add anything into her summary? Any other important details you think she didn't add in her summary that you want to add? You can just come on the WebEx and tell me.
That her summary was really good.
Or what was really good?
Summary of the book.
Okay. Let's see, did she get a new family member? Yeah. Yep. Where are they? Okay, so she got a new baby sister, and they started to travel to Lapwai, but what ended up happening?
They were gonna stick together, and so some people started heading to Montana, and so the whole tribe started heading to Montana.
Yeah. So they were going to Lapwai, and they decided not to. What was the big thing that ended up happening that caused them to change direction? Somebody rose their hand. You can just come on and tell me. Yeah.
Because there was too many people already living in Lapwai, and there's not that much space for them to move into, and so they left.
They didn't quite get to Lapwai yet. They were almost there. Do you guys remember? Can somebody help her out? What happened that caused them to change course?
One guy, I forgot his name. But he went crazy and then killed 2 white men, and then started a battle too between them, between the redcoats and the bluecoats, and they won, but then they knew it was gonna be like more fights and more people were gonna die, so they decided to go to
Montana.
Montana.
Yeah. Now remember, you can look in the front of your book, and we've got that. We really looked at the trails last time, so the path. And so right now they just crossed the mountains. So I'm looking at my book. They just crossed the mountains into the Montana. So that dotted line is Montana. Okay. And that is pretty much where we're at right now. Okay. So we ended up doing, we are going to read chapter 9. And what I want you to do is maybe on a piece of paper, or if I've got some Post-it notes, I usually do. As we read chapter 9, we are going to hear about 2 stories about how the Nimi-Poo were made and how they got fire. So I want you to think about, what connections do we have in the book to a couple stories that we know? Well, we haven't read it yet, so don't put your hand up, okay? I know, we're so excited. I know what we're talking about. It's so exciting. So we're going to read chapter 9, and we're going to hear about 2 stories. And I want you to make connections on your stories of what you know about Nez Perce stories. So remember, we had even somebody narrate a story for us. We had a traditional Nini Poo who narrated and spoke some of the stories. Okay, so I am on page 47. You should have the book. If not, you should find it in Schoology. I think, I don't think I have it. I think I might have it later today. Otherwise, you might have to click trimester 2. I don't think I forgot. I think I forgot to link it. But page 47. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to start. If somebody would like to read, raise your hand, and then I will raise your hand in the chat, and I will call on you. You can read as much as you want, but a minimum of a paragraph. And then we are also going to read chapter 10 today too, so you don't have to put your hand down yet. Okay, so page 47, I'll start, then I will call on somebody. Chapter 9. Without fear, we followed the creek into Bitterroot Valley. Our march slowed. The scouts no longer searched the trail for signs of bluecoats. We moved through the valley, trading gold dust and horses for supplies. The settlers seemed friendly. The shopkeepers opened their stores and sold us flour, coffee, and sugar and tobacco. They sold us heavy cloth to make teepees, for some of our people had left their buffalo robes on the other side of the mountains. We saw no soldiers. As we rode along, settlers waved at us and wished us well. Yet my father's heart seemed to grow heavier with each step of his horse's hooves. We were moving farther and farther from the land of the wandering waters. Digging my heels into the sides of my spotted pony, I rode to his side. His eyes looked at the line of trees where his sky met the earth, but he did not see them. There was pain in his gaze. Ooh, this was kind of a question really quick. Somebody can just tell me out loud. One of our questions in our thing is, do you think we saw some words that my father's heart seemed to grow heavier and heavier, and there was pain in his gaze? Do you think Chief Joseph was happy to leave the land of wandering waters, or really sad?
Because he did not want violence, and he did not want war, but it was happening anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if he could choose, he would choose it to be peace and no violence, and he's not happy that he had to leave.
Yep. And imagine if you were forced out of your home, you wouldn't be very happy either. You'd have a really sad heart and a really painful gaze. You'd be looking out going, oh man. Okay.
Yeah, it's warm in my house. I don't want to go outside.
Exactly. Okay, Riley, you can start reading on page 48, and when Riley stops, I've got Harper, then Greta. Okay, so go ahead, Riley. You can start. Read as long as you want, at least a paragraph.
Okay. Are we safe, Father? I asked. Safe for now, he answered without turning his head. We have left the war behind us in Montana with our enemies, but we will never see our home again. My heart is sick, and I fear to die in a strange land, far from the bones of my father and mother. We can still fight, I said. The blood of our people has been shed, and young men are ready to die in battle. My words made him look at me. Do not talk like that, he said. The white settlers are like the sands of the river. No matter how many we kill, more come. Our warriors would die, and so many of those who do not fight, and who would care for our women and children when the warriors are dead. They would still be far from home. We must protect our women and children, even if it means we are strangers in the land. His mouth made a straight line. His words came like a sigh. We will go to the land of the crows, he said. We can hunt buffalo and replenish our herds. The blue coats do not bother the crow. At first I was sad. Then, like a ray of sunlight, a thought came into my head. If the war was really over, Two Moons would let the marriage go forward. I began to feel happy. When we reached the Crows, Swan Necklace could find colored earths and paint our marriage blanket. Then we would have our own teepee. When my father felt better, I would speak to him about it.
Harper? I dropped.
I dropped back to ride with the children. I showed them the squirrels scampering up the trees and leaping from limb to limb. I pointed out the hawks that hung high in the sky, and the woodchucks sitting beside their holes. I called out when we passed patches of ripening blackberries. I told them about the wire strung on poles beside the trail. See the silver wire, I said. It talks all day and night. It sings like a lark, sending the settlers' words from one town to the next. The children's laughter rang out for the first time since we left Salmon Creek. They did not believe that a wire could send talk across the miles. I found it hard to believe myself, but my father had told me about the click-clack. He said that the clicks ran through the wire like evil spirits, telling the one-armed general which trails we took and where we camped each night. Swan Necklace joined us. We rode side by side, our legs touching. I looked at Swan Necklace and thought about our marriage, and my cheeks turned scarlet. To hide my embarrassment, I told the children stories about Coyote, the trickster of the magic powers. One of their favorite stories was about the time Coyote created the tribes. One summer, in the days before there were people, Coyote learned that a fearsome monster was eating all the animals.
Coyote went to the river where the monster lived and let the terrible creature eat him too. Once Coyote was inside the monster's belly, he started a fire. With a stone knife, he cut the monster's heart from its body. As the monster lay dying, Coyote slashed open its belly and freed all the animals. Coyote cut the monster's body into pieces and flung them across the land. Each piece of bloody flesh became a tribe. One piece became Flathead, another became Crow, another Sioux, another Assiniboine, another Blackfoot, another Kootenai, another Bannock, another Cayuse, another Paiute. All the pieces were gone when the fox told Coyote that he had forgotten to throw a piece of the monster in the land beside the river where he had killed it. Coyote picked up the monster's heart and sprinkled the land with its rich blood. The drops of the blood became Nimupu, the real people. Coyote never threw away the monster's heart and liver. To this day you can see them, two huge stone mounds in the center of our country. Another time Coyote and Black Bear got into a ferocious argument. Coyote was busy fishing when the argument started. He became so angry that he marched out of the river and threw his fish net way up the hill. Then he grabbed Black Bear by the scruff of the neck and shot him hard, saying he'd teach the bear not to bother him while he was fishing.
Okay, Nora, do you want to finish reading He Picked Up?
He picked up Black Bear and threw him against the hill on the other side of the river, using his magic powers to turn the bear into stone. And there they remain to this day, high above the clear water, the net on one bank of the river and the bear on the other. I told stories until the shadows fell and we came to a halt. We had been in the valley for 10 suns.
Oh, so 10 days. Wow. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, what are some differences, or is there anything similar or new that you guys heard about these stories? You can just come on the web and tell me.
Yes. That similarity is that, difference is, it's sort of a difference. It's just like, in some stories they tell, they don't add the part that, the bear turned into stone, and that might be a difference. Maybe in some stories it doesn't count that part, or maybe some stories it needs to add that part to understand why the stone's there.
Is this a new story, The Coyote and the Black Bear? Have we heard of that yet?
No.
No.
Oh, that one was new. And so it talked about, and he said they turned in the magic, he turned the bear into stone, and then they are there. Why do we tell these, really quickly, let's take a step back. Why do they tell stories again? Do you remember? Yeah?
To make people understand, or like to help like the tribe and the little kids understand how they become themselves and how they got like all their land.
Yeah, how things came to be. So like, yeah, this is how the Needy Poo were created. Okay, remember that spirituality piece? Okay, these are these spirits, and they created the Needy Poo, and then I think this other one was maybe teaching them a lesson, right? So teaching them maybe to not bother people while fishing, or to have patience. Anything else?
Yeah.
Ooh, to entertain.
Also to maybe if they're not falling asleep, maybe it's a bedtime story for them to learn their lessons. Like it's a moral story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a way to teach them to not do the things in the story that the black bear did.
Yeah. Okay, well, so this first story, The Coyote and the Monster, there was some similar things, right? So there was the monster and the coyote, and he started a fire. He took the stone knife and cut the monster's heart. Was there anything different or anything new compared to this story to the one that you heard?
There wasn't as detailed.
Yeah, it was really quick.
Like, like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like not as much detail.
And it also
Yeah,
doesn't
it
really
wasn't as-
explain. It doesn't really explain the beginning of the story. Like it explained for us, like how he gathered so many things and was prepared. And also, it doesn't add the part about like how he stepped on the snake's head, how he punched in the bear in the nose, and how he helped the, I don't know, muskrat, I think, out of the monster, and his tail was cut.
Well, think about it too. We're reading a short novel, right? I'm trying to open here. Think of remember how long that story was? Do you think she actually told them in detail in real life, and then she just kind of said a brief summary of it? Remember, here's the story. It's 5 pages long. Ooh. So you think?
Yeah, she.
I also I thought he had multiple stone knives, not just one.
Yeah. So
And also, when she was telling the story, she didn't add all the detail.
So I would say she just told us a summary of the story, right? Because we told the whole story. So she probably, to the kids, told the whole story. So in detail. So probably had a lot more details.
But for us, it was just
it was just a quick summary. Do you think there's more to the story with the coyote and the bear then?
Probably.
Yeah. Maybe, I think it said like there was 2 stones like right in the middle, and the bear turned into 1 stone, and so I think there's more of a story that another animal bothered him while he was fishing and turned into the other stone.
The one thing that I saw that was super different with the Coyote and the Monster is at the very end of the Coyote and the Monster, they just kind of created the Needy Poo. Okay, so that's very similar. And but what happened is I really liked it continued, and they have also 2 big stones with the heart and liver. So Coyote never threw away the monster's heart and liver. So you can see 2 huge stone mounds in the center of their country. So you guys, a lot of these things, remember in the beaver, how the beaver stole fire? There's a big cedar tree, and that is probably that helps as you're walking, somebody's going, why are those two big stone mounds there? And then you can tell the story, or why is that big cedar tree? It's the only one there. That also probably helped those stories. And so they've got different things probably around them that helps explain some of those different pieces. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to read chapter 10. And what we're going to do is, I think chapter 10, I have not read it yet, but I think there's some big things that happen in chapter 10. I want you to flag or write down a couple things, some noticing and wonder. Okay? Now, I'm going to have you, when you're done, kind of think about the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. So we're going to think of a summary. Your homework eventually, I want you to think about, is they called it a tableau activity, but our homework that you're going to think about at the very end is I want you to think about what is the main big thing that happens in chapter 10. Okay?
You're kind of glitching out a lot.
Yeah, give me a second. Okay.
I can hear like happening.
Yeah, it's loading. No, it's not loading. Okay. So what we're going to eventually do is we're going to read chapter 10. We're going to talk about how things that we notice are about. Or we're going to talk about the beginning, the middle, and the end. And then we're going to put you in groups. I'm going to have you kind of together talk about it. You're going to create a picture of what happened in chapter 10. Okay, so that's going to be our final product. Okay. So there's going to be a big thing that I think happens in chapter 10. I don't know what it is because I haven't read it, but we're going to read it together, and I want you to think about some notice and wonder things again. Okay? So I'm going to be looking at the people that are reading. I first have Nora. Nora, you read a little bit, right? Do you want to keep reading?
Sure.
Okay. And then I have Breezy, then Riley again, then Harper, then Sienna, then, yeah. So Nora, you can read as much as you want. And then when she stops, Brielle, you can read. And then when she stops, Riley, you can read. So go ahead and start chapter 10.
We had come to a second vast valley of brush and willows and tall white trees. A clear stream ran silently from one far shore to another. A day's slow journey on horseback. Blossoms were scattered through the tall grass, waving beside the water. We were tired from our long travels, and the old people stumbled at every step they took. But the redcoats strode through the camp with their chests out and their red jackets taunting those who would dare to stop them. Looking Glass said we would stay at this place for 3 suns. Here we would cut teepee poles and let them dry. Birch trees with tall, smooth trunks grew everywhere along the shores. They were the best trees for teepee poles. Our women cut down stacks of the saplings, peeled them clean, and set them out to dry in the sun. Without them, we would have to sleep beneath the stars. We would need the poles during the rest of our flight.
We'd gathered food to eat along the way. The warriors hunted antelope and black-tailed deer, and the old men caught fish. The women dug roots, and no one fought the white soldiers we had left behind in Montana. No one except Lone Bird, one of the brave warriors. He rode through the camp telling the chiefs that we must stay on the trail. I do not trust the bluecoats, he said. Maybe they are close behind us. Keep going. Move fast. Death may follow along the trail. Wallets agreed. He told of his dream. Last night I saw myself killed. I do not turn back from death. But first I will kill some soldiers. My brother and sister, I am telling you, we are going to die. He offered to take the redcoats and scout back along the trail. Whitebird said that was good, but Looking-Glass told Violet to hunt antelope instead. The Bluecoats were far across the mountains. He said, our horses are weary to nest rest. This is a peaceful place, and here we are safe. Your dreams was an idle fancy, no more. We forgot Lone Bird's warning and Wyatt's dream. When the hunters came back, it was a happy night for supper. We ate scalpel trout and clams, roots, baked in ashes, and the last of the hungerbirds we had pecked along the way.
Swan Necklace polished his boots and put bear grease on his hair. He fairly glistened. He said kind words about my eagle feather and goose quill jacket and blue beaded band, and I wore around my forehead. But he was so full of a part in battle that he could talk of little else. I was proud of him too. To please him, I said, you'll be a chieftain after just one more battle with the Bluecoats. They'll come sneaking along again in a few days, and I'll kill some more. Children made ugly masks of dead soldiers, with eyes hanging down on their cheeks, and pieces of ear cut off. They dug holes and buried the masks deep, and laughed and hummed secret songs that they made up. Our ponies and mules were tethered above the stream, where they could be watched during the night. Sentries were placed on the crests of the valley, but not enough of them. The camp slept well in the willows. Frogs croaked at their night song. A child screamed and dogs barked. A woman who had been wounded at Whitebird moaned. Those were all the sounds I heard before daybreak. The sky was cold gray when I woke up from the troubled sleep and crawled out of my teepee. I had picked up a pot full of water for the morning meal when the first shot crossed the stream. It came from a tree close behind me.
Okay, Harper.
Waletzis, wrapped in his long red coat, had gone out to see that the herd was still safely tied up. He marched along the shore with a warrior's step. A second bolt struck him in the back and knocked him down. He was the one who had killed Richard Devine and started the war, and the enemy knew it. Waletzis crawled to the stream. He was falling in the water when his wife came out of the teepee. She was heavy with the child. She would bear him and walk slowly. She caught him in her arms and held him until he gave one long gasp, and he was dead. The man who had killed Waletzis stood over her, saying something I could not hear, putting bullets in his smoking gun. The next bullet struck her in the chest. She staggered but made no sound. Somehow she got the gun from him and took a careful aim and shot him in the face. Then she sank to the ground and died. My father lurched from his bed and ran outside. He thrust my baby sister into my arms. The air was filled with shouts and war whoops and the cries of children, cut through by the sound of shooting. Bullets tore through the camp like hailstones. Fires burned along the shores from one teepee to another. Women with their children clutching their skirts and babies on their... what does it say next? I was looking at this. Backs ran out of the teepee screaming.
Hey, Sienna. And then after Greta.
My father told them to leave the stream and hide on the hillside in the brush. By this time, all the teepees were burning. My mother ran out with her braided hair on fire. Some of the women tried to hide in the stream, but it was too shallow, and their heads stuck out of the water. Soldiers shot off their heads and killed all except a child who was able to crawl along the bottom and grasps some willows along the shore. Our warriors drove the soldiers back across the stream and through the willows. Then Looking Glass gathered our warriors and scattered them throughout the bottom between the stream and the far hills. They dug pits, set up carabines, and built rock walls high enough to shoot over and not to be shot at by their soldiers. The guns were not new, and their soft bullets got stuck in the barrels, and the barrels exploded. They had no food, and it was hard to reach the stream without being shot. Yet from the hour Looking Glass put them in the pits, they fought until the gun barrels melted. At nightfall, Chief Joseph went to the dirt pits and counted. He found 31 of our people dead and 26 badly wounded, most of the dead and wounded were women, old men, and children. Some had been shot as they slept, still rolled in the blankets. Some had been clubbed. The soldiers were when they charged the camp at dawn.
Okay.
We lost 12 warriors. Red Moccasin Tops was dead, killed by a bullet that struck him in the throat. Of the redcoats, only Swan Necklace lived. My father could not count the enemy soldiers who were slain and wounded in the hills, but our warriors said that the bluecoats lay sick upon the ground. Lean Elk, who had joined us only a few suns before, fought violently. He led a group that seized the soldiers' cannon, broke it, and pushed it into the swamp. They captured enough bullets to fight many battles, yet we had taken a loss we dared not suffer another day. Fighting stopped when the night hawks began to fly. Swan Necklace and I held hands and talked about the day we would be married and live once more in beautiful Wallowa. We watched two girls combing their wet hair. They had spent most of the day in the stream, swimming in the shallows and coming up to breathe. Then I went to help with the wounded. My mother had been hit as she ran for the stream, her hair in flames. We fought for her life all night there by the water. My father held her in his arms away from the smothering camp and the starlit sky to the world beyond. When she died, my father said, "Will this hatred ever end? It sickens my heart. All men were made by this same great spirit chief, yet we shoot one another down like animals."
Why did her mom have to die? It was so sad.
Sucks.
It was an intense.
I didn't know it was going to be that intense of a chapter.
Oh man, yeah, I didn't either, and it's very graphic. Were you guys able to kind of imagine what was happening? It just happened so fast. I mean, if you look, there were a lot of descriptive things. So they talked about like climbing for the stream, and they talked about, I mean, they even focused on things like their guns and how they weren't new, and so those soft bullets got stuck in the barrels and the barrels exploded. And so there was a lot that ended up happening. And was this an organized thing, or would you say this was really chaotic?
Chaotic.
Pretty chaotic.
Yeah. It just moved from one thing to the other, and it just suddenly happened. So let's look then what is something that you guys noticed and um, wondered while you were reading this? Yes. Let's see. Greta has her hand raised, but Harper as well.
I noticed that Swan Necklace was the only one who lived, besides the Redcoats, and that made me wonder, like, how could he possibly have lived when he was like the one who was the painter, not the warrior, really?
Mm-hmm.
And like, why did he live and not like the warriors live that like
Yeah.
actually were the ones who had been fighting before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anything else? You can add on to it. You guys, you don't have to raise your hand. Just go ahead and speak or say, I agree, and add on. Breezy? Something that you noticed or wondered?
I kind of wondered about I noticed that everyone pretty much almost everyone when they're trying to get to the streams died. So, but I was just like noticed that her mother died, which really sucked.
Did her mom actually die? Do we know that for sure, you guys?
Her mom was like in recovery or in wounds, and they were focusing on her. Yeah.
No, but it says right here, here, I'll read it.
She died.
It says, it sickens, here, I went to help with the wounded. My mother had been hit and she ran to the stream. Her hair had flames. We fought for her life all night. There by the water. My father held in her arms, away from the smoldering camp in Australia, to the world beyond. When she died.
I missed that, when she died. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. I don't know. Yeah. Well, and so, yeah, and she's got a new baby sister. Well, I was very sad. Well, and as somebody who just has a new baby, just
And now,
while it's its wife, when she was ready for a baby, and she ended up getting murdered quite tragically.
and now her younger sister will have to grow up without a mom.
Yep. And yeah, it is quite tragic.
And I think that that's right, like, BL, because I don't Thunder Rolling in the Mountains, the father, he doesn't really seem like he's like the type for remarrying like another person after his wife has died.
Yeah.
You're right.
Like, he would be loyal and wouldn't marry anyone else.
Yeah, or I feel like he would end up really just honoring her memory afterwards and really thinking about
Yeah, I feel like chapter 11 they're gonna like worship her or something.
Or have like a memorial.
Yeah, memorial.
Any other thoughts about what's going to happen next?
I noticed that it was very chaotic because there was a war, and then they were talking about how people died, and then it went on about talking about like marriage and where they were gonna live, and then that the mother died.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered.
Yep.
Why Sound of Running Feet wasn't that sad, or at least why didn't she show it?
Yeah, she. Well, how did she kind of deal with it afterwards? She ended up finding comfort with who? Her fiance, right? Swan Necklace.
With Swan Necklace, and I think that It's sort of in order though, like even though it's very chaotic, it's sort of in order. They're just kind of showing like where different people were at like the same time, so they can't do it exactly in order.
Mm-hmm.
But like soldiers were shooting, and then there was also a woman hiding, and then like it went back and forth between like that and Swan Necklace, but it was still sort of like in the order that what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, this won't leave my mind when like there were still people that got shot when they were like curled up in their teepee. Like
Mm-hmm.
for some reason that won't leave my mind because it would be like you're just sleeping and then you don't ever wake up and it just.
Yeah, that's true.
And I got really sad when I heard that some of the kids died.
I know.
'Cause it said most of the women, most of the old people, and kids died.
Yeah, they never get to
And
grow
they
up.
didn't get to live that long.
Well, and you guys, the sad thing is war is not, it's not biased, I think is the word that I want to use. A war does not worry about how old you are, what race you are, what, how, how many, if you've got a family or not, or yeah, your age. War happens to everybody. So if you think of the countries that have war right now, that's why it's so tragic for some of the, I mean, it still happens. And
It
a
just sucks.
lot of people are affected. Yeah. So, really quickly, let's put this in in a quick summary. Let's think about at the very beginning of the chapter. What ended up happening just at the very beginning? So so they were stopping, right, for buffalo, or for and what happened? Who thought of something?
So, I can't pronounce his name.
Walitzis.
Yeah, he had a dream. I think it was him that had a dream that he was killed and that they needed to keep moving, but no one listened to him and they were saying that they're safe there, but then the war ended up happening.
Okay, yeah. So they ended up, so Walitzis had this.
And he was right that he actually did die.
He did.
Yeah.
And
that was actually a really sad part,
It
though.
reminds me of the story of Joseph, like not Chief Joseph, but because Joseph would always have dreams and they would end up happening. So that just reminded me of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, honestly, I really didn't really think much of his dream until it actually happened. So.
Yeah. Well, and if you look, there was a lot of people that was like, "Ooh, that's really important, that dream," and the other people had the same thought too. They just kind of they ignored it, right? And they kind of played on.
When you said something big was going to happen, and when he said he had a dream that he was going to die, I kind of assumed that it would like happen or something.
Ooh.
So I kind of like thought of it. I wasn't certain, but I had like a quick thought. Like maybe it's going to happen or...
Yeah. And even Bailey, she had an idea because she looked on the map really close to where we were at, and it said the Battle of Bear Paw. And
I was looking at that too.
yeah, so she had kind of seen, because we already saw the Clearwater and Whitebird Canyon when they kind of attacked, and we just moved over. And so, yeah, we have the Battle of Bear Paw, and I don't know, did it say a time? That was either Battle of Bear Paw or maybe it might be Battle of Big Hole. I don't know if they got quite as far yet. So, because they've been talking about the battles in here. And so this is the first battle they've had in Montana, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you look, there's probably more. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to open or take out a piece of paper, and I'm going to put you in groups, and I want you to discuss. We're only going to take about 5 minutes to discuss, and I want you to talk about what kinds of things. I want you to draw a picture, of, now I'm not asking you to be an artist, you guys. All I say is if you do stick people, make sure that your stick people have clothes, right? And I want you to think of some what you would maybe put in on your picture, okay? So in your group, I want you to talk about, you're going to draw a picture. What are some key things that maybe you should put in your picture, okay? And you're going to work on your picture. I'm going to give you probably about 7 minutes to start it, and then we're going to come back together and we're going to finish up, okay? So talk with your group. What kinds of things should you put in your picture that you think were important about this topic or this chapter?
All right.
Bailey Berkeley, are you there? Berkeley? It's weird that it didn't show any of them. Do we have a question, you guys? What's up? So what would you draw on that picture?
We were thinking maybe how they were like around their mom and how they went to go help, or like an image from the war. So maybe like when they built the.
Maybe they built something. Yeah, you only have to choose one thing. Okay, so maybe just talk together and you guys can start your picture. Good job. So go ahead and start. You can either do notability or draw it.
Does anyone want to share their screen and show us what they're doing? I'm trying my best, but it might not be that good.
Like I said,
It on a piece of paper, but
I am pro stick people. You just got to put clothes on them. I just don't want naked stick people. It's true.
Yeah, that'd be then it'd be a naked war.
Exactly. And that would be just awkward. Yeah.
I don't think many people do a naked war.
Nope. So yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, you can think about what kind of clothes they'd have. So they'd have they probably have pants, like you have the leather pants and like shirts, and maybe even like feathers, or maybe they even had time to put paint, like
I just drew smiley faces on all my people, so now I gotta make them into frowns because they're not happy.
Yeah, I don't think they would be happy. Mm-hmm. That's something we're gonna briefly talk about. How are they going to express?
I'm drawing someone holding a gun, a blue coat.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea how to draw a gun.
You know what?
Neither do I.
It doesn't have to. I mean, if they're holding like a stick, that's fine. I'm getting it. I'm not expecting a artist.
Yeah, I'm just drawing a stick.
These are sketches. I should relate and say a sketch, because sketches, they are your rough draft, your raw details. Yep. Good job.
Is it okay?
How's it going? Good. Don't forget to think about their emotions on their face. How are they going to look? Like I think Harper said, "Oh, I drew smiley faces on everyone." They're not smiling. Okay. And you only have to draw like one small scene or do a sketch of one small scene.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm just drawing stick people because I don't have much time. Normally
Perfect.
I'll do
Well,
but
you'll just have to turn, if you don't finish it, you'll finish it for homework. Yep. So just put,
I just have TP dead people in the shooter. And
okay. Yeah, and well, and you can add more to it. Yep, because I'll have you finish it for homework.
okay.
Yep. And like I said, don't have naked stick people. Just put clothes on. That's easy to do, like a shirt and some pants. Beautiful. Now you don't have to turn it in right now. Okay. When I'm going to have you finish it for homework. Some things that I heard some good discussion about is I want you to think of the expressions on their face. Somebody had said, "Oh, I drew stick people and I put smiley faces on them." They're not smiling. So maybe think about those expressions.
I put eyes on them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so how would you differentiate if somebody was past or somebody that's alive? Or how if somebody's moving, okay? So think about some of those. You've got like lines that show if somebody's running. Think about, like I said, remember, I'll switch the word to not say draw, but a sketch. So if it's not, I'm not expecting a beautiful picture. I'm expecting details like how their expression is. If you don't know how to draw a firearm, then maybe, yeah, you're holding a stick. But think about some other things like if you're drawing a stick person, what would you have for their clothes? Okay, so we've got blue coats and red coats and the Nimi Poo. So should you add some color of the different coats? Ooh, so I'm looking more for details. I'm not looking for if you're an artist. No. This isn't, we're not focusing on those elements. We're focusing on details. So think of even if maybe they have warrior paint on. So maybe you've got some little blue streaks on their face, or how would they wake up? A lot of them are probably in their pajamas, so they're probably wearing. So, I think of maybe the guys, they're probably not going to sleep with a shirt on. Girls will probably have a long shawl. Okay, when I think of some of the native, it was at night. But the soldiers, the blue coats would have, their blue coat on. Okay. Maybe there's horses. We know that there's horses around. There are teepees around. Okay. So think of those things. Okay. Really quickly, before we are done, so you can keep working on this. This is due later today. Okay. I want you to think of some of these final words spoken by Chief Joseph. He says, "Will this hatred ever end? It sickens my heart. All men were made by the same great spirit chief, yet we shoot one another down like animals." Okay? How do you think his emotion is right now? What is Chief Joseph feeling? Does somebody want to?
I feel as he is sad, but also is a little frustrated about what's happening and wants it all to end.
Yeah, Sienna, what do you think?
I agree with Riel. Also, he doesn't like violence at all, so maybe it was a little sad to him that a lot of his people died in violence.
And especially the innocent ones, right? Like his wife and children and older people. How does this word reflect some of his beliefs? So some of you guys talked about it and his values. Who does he value again? He didn't really, he values land, but not as much.
He values peace and his family and
remember
his home.
Yes,
And
Sienna had pointed, so his family and his people, right? So his belief is that his people should live, that we all were made by the same Great Spirit Chief. He thinks we all came from the same people. Why are we killing each other? Okay. He values his people. Okay. Finally, how do you think this impacted the Nez Perce people? How did this war?
Very harshly, because now they don't have a lot of warrior to like guide the woman to safety. They only have Swan Necklace as a warrior, and then like how is he going to be able to fight off like all the blue coats? So I feel like now is a time that you can see in the front cover that it looks like she's ready for battle. So I feel like now is the time that maybe she's going to go into battle too, because she wants to save her land.
And I think it also affects them in a way that they can't like trust anything now, because they don't know when a war is gonna happen, and they just can't like leave their teepee without looking everywhere, making sure that there's no one about to shoot them. And like, because that happened to me, I would probably like scarred for life. And like, so like, and the children probably were very scared. And
yeah, they let their guard down. And I mean, like you guys said, it's very traumatic. Imagine those kids that had to go through it. Well, and the adults.
But it's a good lesson for the next generation to never put their guard down.
Yeah. But think of it, it's a good lesson, but is it also sowing mistrust? I mean, is everybody bad that isn't a Nimipu? Because they had a lot of settlers that helped them.
Yes, a lot of the settlers like sold them the food and stuff and like gave them a good time. So they have to believe that some of them aren't bad, but there are like people out there that there are people out there that are like speaking up for the Nimipu, and there's that are just like settlers. And there's also people out there that are speaking like against the Nimipu.
Exactly. You guys remember this stuff for next year, because we're going to talk about the Anishinaabe next year and the Native American, the Ojibwe and the Dakota. And a lot of these same things. I am so excited next year because our Minnesota history is all on our Native Americans and how Minnesota came as a state. And we're going to have some really good discussions next year, because you'll be like, with Senora Wersinger, we talked about the Nimipu, and we don't have gold here in Minnesota, but we have other valuable things. Okay.
Yeah, but next year I might do homeschool.
Next year what?
Next year I'm probably doing homeschool.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to do vocabulary tomorrow. So I'll put it under Monday. So today, we just have a picture, and then tomorrow I will have a video. Tomorrow we're going to talk about really quickly, and then you can leave. We're going to think about how we can use our, how we can write a compare and contrast essay about Chief Joseph and Sound of Running Feet, and we've got a vocabulary word. Okay, so this we will do tomorrow, and you will have a fluency homework. Okay. I am here if you have any questions until 11 o'clock. So you can leave if you're all done, and I will talk to you guys later. But
do we have any more independent work?
Nope. You just have to finish your.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
We will see you Thursday.